I'm Greg Chris, along with my good buddy Dave Gorby, helping me out tonight. Tonight we are at Calacino's. Calacino's located at 3611 Robert C. Byrd Drive here in Beckley. You guys can see the wings here in front of us. If you get an opportunity to come up here and get you a bite to eat, have you a good cold beverage. Great place to hang out, a lot of memorabilia around, sports memorabilia. TV sets, plenty of sports on TV, so if you have a chance, you want to come by and have some good food and a good atmosphere, and you can ask Dave Gorby about that. Good place to be.
Definitely.
And we're thrilled again tonight. We have another what we think is a special show. We've had a couple of those in the past couple of weeks. 2 weeks ago, we were down in Artie, West Virginia. We got the pleasure of spending an evening with Coach Tex Williams. It was a fascinating evening. We had a lot of good feedback on our show, and we truly enjoyed Coach Williams and the Artie Museum. So we hope to be going back there before too long if he'll ever invite us. I don't know if he wants to invite us back. If he keeps having to feed us, he's not going to bring us back down there too many times. Last week we had former Major League Baseball umpire Larry Barnett on with us. You older heads in here might remember the 1975 World Series between the Cincinnati Reds and the Boston Red Sox. And in Game 3 of that World Series, there was a controversial play at the plate with a bunt by Ed Armbrister. And Larry Barnett was the umpire behind the plate that night. So we got to talk to him last week, and he talked about that play and talked about that World Series, and what a thrill it was. So it was a thrill for us to have him on as well. We also want to mention the fact that if anybody's interested in sponsoring the show, we would gladly take you on board to have you as a sponsor to keep us going here. So we run around all over the place. We don't do this to get rich. We just do it for the entertainment, the enjoyment, and getting to talk to people like we're going to get to talk to tonight. And like we've talked to for the last couple of weeks. We'll talk about our guest here in just a minute. What we are is a high school sports show, basically, but we interview other folks as well, just to pique the interest a little bit in the show. And we focus on our local high school kids, try to get them on the air, try to name an athlete of the week each week. The problem we're having right now is there's not much high school sports going on, and basketball season was really limited. Baseball season's been somewhat limited as well, so it's hard to keep up with high school athletics when there's not high school athletics going on. So we try to mix in a few other folks just to make the show interesting. Speaking of high school, Dave, last week the boys' high school basketball championships wrapped up, and we like to mention that and let you know that AAA George Washington, or the Quad A George Washington, defeated Morgantown 47-46, which was only the best game of the whole thing, I think. Mm-hmm. Shady Spring, locally here, Shady Spring able to pull off the AAA championship. They knocked off Wheeling Central 55-43. In AA, my good buddy Scott Sorrow from over at Williamstown was able to pick up a win over Poca 50-47 for the AA championship. And in single A, Man beat Pendleton County 43-36. And but best thing I can remember about the state tournament was it was the lowest scoring state tournament I think I ever remember in all my years of coaching. Going down there, didn't have a lot of points.
That's kind of how the season went.
Yeah, and I think that's a direct result of not being able to practice. Mm-hmm. Getting quarantined and all those type of things. Teams just weren't at their peaks with all these problems that are going on. But anyway, that's our basketball champions in the boys division. And next week we'll talk to some high school coaches and also go over some of the all-state teams that are starting to come out now. By next week, the boys should be out, so we'll have the girls and boys all-state team, and we're going to be talking to some of the high school coaches that won these championships, hopefully. That's the plan as of now. I also want to make one other announcement. The Oak Hill Red Devil baseball team, of course, that's in Fayette County. For you Raleigh County folks, that's where we're located. Oak Hill's baseball team is playing over at Princeton tomorrow night, and they're going to have a live stream of that. You can go to PrincetonTigerSports.com and watch Princeton and Oak Hill play baseball. It starts at 7 o'clock tomorrow night, so if you're interested in watching that. Also, each and every week we choose an athlete of the week from the area, either Fayette, Raleigh, Greenbrier counties. We pick an athlete of the week. Sometimes we have difficulty getting out and seeing everybody or knowing who all should be considered for the athlete of the week. So we keep it kind of local for the most part. And we choose an athlete of the week each week from one of the local high schools. And Gino's Pizza sponsors that. They give them a certificate for free pizza. They give them Tudor's Biscuit World free biscuit, I think. They also get a nice certificate. And like I tell Dave every week, they get to be seen by millions and millions of people on the show, and it changes their life forever. In reality, it gives them a free pizza.
Yeah.
Don't really change their life much
And
at all,
tutors.
actually. And tutors, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Changed my life. They share it with me. So anyway, we do choose an athlete of the week each week. This week, the Geno's Pizza Athlete of the Week is a young man by the name of Cy Persinger. Cy Persinger is a baseball player over at Midland Trail High School. Cy, over the past week and a half, he pitches some. He has a 1.8 ERA right now. He has a batting average of .552. He's got a streak going right now. His last 6 at-bats, he's 6 for 6. And he is quite a baseball player.
Not bad.
Yep. So congratulations to Cy Persinger again. Somebody will be in contact with him soon about his award and hook him up with these free coupons and all those type of things. Anyway, I want to remind you again, we are at Calacino's tonight. You guys, again, you can see the wings here in front of me. If you want to come out for some good food, good company, and a nice atmosphere, this is the place to do it. So come on over. Again, we have a special night tonight that we're really excited about. Like I said, we've had a couple of those this past couple of weeks, but it just don't stop. We got it again. Tonight, we are fortunate enough, we are going to be joined here in just a few minutes by a legendary football player by the name of Lonnie Warwick. As most of you folks locally here know, now people watching across the country may not, but Mr. Warwick played 10 seasons in the National Football League. Most of those were with the Minnesota Vikings. He started in Super Bowl IV. And I think one of the things that, people my age didn't realize, I remember watching him play, and I remember watching him play. I was young, but I remember the Purple People Eaters. And they were, one of the best, if not the best, defense in the NFL. And the fact that Lonnie Warwick led that defense in tackles for 4 years is amazing. And, a lot of people probably don't know that, but that's one thing that really stood out to me. I thought there was that great defense, and you had this man that was leading that defense in tackles. So pretty awesome. And anyway, he started in Super Bowl IV. He's a Mount Hope guy. He went to Mount Hope High School. He participated in the 1959 state championship game. He was named All-State in football and basketball. Graduated from Mount Hope in 1960. Went down to the University of Tennessee for a year, then to Tennessee Tech, where he finished out his college career. He's now, and Lonnie, you can correct me on some of this if I'm wrong, but now a member of the Tennessee Tech Hall of Fame, and of course also the West Virginia Hall of Fame as well. But he went and worked for the railroad for a while in Arizona, signed a free agent contract with the Minnesota Vikings, and as they say, the rest is history. And like I said, the fact that we get a chance to talk to him is fascinating and fun for us, and I know everybody here will enjoy it as well, and hopefully everybody at home watching will like it too. So if you want to tune in, if you guys here in the restaurant want to tune in later on and watch this, you can tune in on Facebook. Just go to Courtside with Coach Chris on Facebook. You can also go to YouTube, and on YouTube there is a Greenbrier Valley channel. Go to YouTube, get on Greenbrier Valley channel, and this show will pop up. So if you want to go back and watch the show later on, you can. I'd encourage you and hope that you'll share it with folks and let everybody know what we're doing, because we're really, more or less public service. We just try to do this type of thing for the local high schools, and then we get some of the local legends as well to get involved, and that helps get us a little attention, that helps us gear more attention then towards the high school kids. So we appreciate it if you would spread the word and watch with us. Anyway, we're going to take us a quick break, pay some of our bills. When we come back, we will have Mr. Lonnie Warwick up here with us. And I want to tell you too, I think Greg passed out some tickets just a few minutes ago. And if people are still coming in, which I see they are, Greg will jump up there and give you a ticket. We're going to give away, Mr. Warwick's kind enough to sign a Vikings football up here. We also have 3 of his football cards that he's autographed, so we'll be giving those away. And we didn't know what else to do, so we're just going to draw them out of a hat and call your number. So you must be present to win. I always want to say that. I never understood it, but I always want to say it. All right, let's get us a quick break in here. When we come back, we will be visiting with Mr. Lonnie Warwick of the Minnesota Vikings. Stay with us. We'll be back with Courtside with Coach Chris after these messages. a second. Welcome back to Courtside with Coach Chris. I'm Greg Chris, joined by Dave Gorby tonight helping me out. And, I do this for fun, and there are occasions when the fun becomes a little bit extra, and tonight is one of those times when you get to talk to folks that you've admired from afar and witnessed their accomplishments over the years, and you know who they are, but you don't have the nerve to talk to them. And I've known Mr. Warwick for quite some time, and but I haven't really ever got to sit down and talk to him a whole lot. We talk occasionally, but not a whole lot. But this is an absolute thrill for us tonight to have with us former Minnesota Viking Lonnie Warwick. Mr. Warwick, appreciate you being here with us tonight.
Well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure for me to be here. As a kid growing up here in the Mount Hope, the Beckley area, and playing my high school football here against the Flying Eagles and the Oak Hill Red Devils and the Fayetteville Pirates, and then going on and playing in the National Football League and meeting the people that I met. I mean, it was just, I can't say how much I, appreciated all the help that I had while I was here. And it was just, a great experience for me, How many people can say that leaving out of Mount Hope and going and meeting guys like Bob Hope, Dean Martin, and, playing against some great players like Jimmy Brown and Jimmy Taylor. And, just great experiences, for a kid coming out of a coal mining area like we are, and all the great people that live in West Virginia.
Well, don't steal all my questions, because you keep talking. You're going to answer everything before I get asked.
Good.
The first thing I did want to ask you, though, was about Mount Hope. Of course, I've got some familiarity with Mount Hope, taught school there, coached there for a while. Talk a little bit about your time at Mount Hope, and then obviously the community meant something to you because you came back here. You probably didn't have to, but you came back here. So just tell us a little bit about your time at Mount Hope, what that was like, and now the community itself, what it's meant to you.
Well, I was born in a little community called Oswald there. It's just a couple miles out of Mount Hope there. And, my brother John, he was older, and he played at Mount Hope High School. So I was familiar with the high school Mount Hope forever. And, all I wanted to do was play at Mount Hope High School because there were so many good players ahead of me, like Jack Stone, man. He was a legend over there. That was one of the first guys to come out there and that went on and played big-time football in college and whatever. And that's all I ever wanted to do. And when I finally got to be a senior and get scholarships, I had scholarships to just about wherever I wanted to go, but I wanted to go to Tennessee because of George Caffago, and because he was a friend of the family. And so I go on to Tennessee, and I get my knee hurt, and they operated on it, and they said that they wasn't going to let me play any more football. So the coach that Caffago, everybody knows George Caffago. He was from Oak Hill over there. So he said he knew some guys at Tennessee Tech that they'd let me play. So I transferred.
That was actually going to be my next question. When you went to Tennessee Tech, then that's another thing a lot of people around here don't know a lot about, was your time there. So I'm sorry to interrupt you, but again, you're taking all my questions there. So I think I got to do something here.
You want me to be quiet, don't you?
No. Trust me, it's a lot better to do it this way. When you get these high school kids in, basically what you get is yes, no, maybe. So in 30 seconds, you've got 15 minutes you got to fill in after 30 seconds. Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead and talk about Tennessee Tech.
No, that's all right. So I transferred to Tennessee Tech, where I ended up playing at Tennessee Tech, which was a great move for me because they weren't going to let me play anymore because I hurt my knee.
Right.
So, from there I played pretty good, made all the Ohio Valley Conference, and I still had a couple years of eligibility, but I just thought that I was ready to go somewhere else. So I had a chance to play at a couple other teams other than Minnesota, but Minnesota, I looked at them, and they had some young linebackers that I thought that I had a chance with, so I chose Minnesota.
Okay, well, you skipped over a part of this story that I've heard this before, but tell us what you were doing when you heard from Minnesota. I've heard this story a time or two, but you were signed as a free agent with them, but You had some other opportunities, but you chose them. But tell us about how that transpired.
Well, I was in Arizona working on the railroad, and we were working out in the field, and I was out. We were welding these rails together in quarter-mile lengths, and we're way out on the desert, and I looked up the rail, and here I looked to see the dust out there. You in these old movies, you see when they riding these horses the dust. Well, here come a little motor scooter up, and they come up, and I seen him talking to the foreman, and I heard him say Lonnie Warwick. Do you have somebody Lonnie Warwick? And so, first thing I thought was, man, somebody died in my family, So it said it's from the Minnesota Vikings. If you would like a tryout with us, you have to call us today. And we're out in the desert, And
no cell phones, was it?
Yeah, no cell phones, no nothing. So the little guy on this scooter, so I asked a foreman. I said, "Can I go to town because, I had to call him that day."
Right.
So this little Spanish-speaking guy, no, you can't ride on my bike. You can't. So I said, boy, I jumped on the back of that little scooter, and here we go. Here we go down the railroad track. But he made me get off before we got into town. So I called, and
I would like to have a picture of that.
I would have too. That would have been great. But anyhow, I called, and they said, well, if you're interested in playing for the Minnesota Vikings, you have to sign a contract. And I said, okay. I said, well, what kind of money are we talking about? This is the year that Joe Namath signed for $200,000 bonus. And I said, man, I'm working for $9.10 an hour, on the railroad. Boy, and I'm thinking I'm gonna get a big bonus. And he said, well, if you want to sign, we'll send you a contract. You're not getting any bonus or anything. So I said, send me the contract. So it was my first NFL contract was $9,500.
Wow. Wow. You was doing better on the railroad.
Yeah, you're the kid that was. But I was so interested in wanting to play football because that was my whole, growing up. Watching all these guys, Bruce Bosley, Sam Huff, those guys, all those guys from West Virginia at that time were really, into the pros, and that's all I wanted to do. So it worked out for me.
Can you imagine, when you sit and look back at it now and you see the type of money that these guys are making, I know obviously, we'd all like to make that much money, but do you think that's affected the game a lot nowadays? Because it seems to be more money and business driven than it is about actually, allegiance to a team or anything like that. Do you think it's hurt the game any?
Well, I really do think it's hurt the game. I can't, for me to see a guy that's making $500,000 that really can't really play, really.
Right.
All three of us linebackers that played for the Minnesota Vikings, Roy Winston, Wally Hildenberg, and myself, all three of us guys played full time. Plus, we played on the kickoff team, the punting team. We played all the special teams too. Those guys nowadays couldn't do it.
Right. No.
And here's the thing that I see most about the team now is that they talk about the speed on the team. All three of us linebackers that played for the Vikings, we all run a 4.5 40.
Wow.
Now, not many of those linebackers today can run a 4.5 40.
No.
And that's one reason that Wally Hildenberg, he played 17 years, Roy played 15 years, and I played 13 years. That's the reason you can play so long.
Right.
If you can run in the National Football League, you can play.
Right.
But that's the thing about now. A lot of players, they don't teach the players like they used to.
Yeah, everything's so specialized.
That's
now.
right.
Right. Well, that's interesting. I had no idea you could run like that. That's probably back in that time era, in that era, was awfully fast.
That was
To me, that's fast now. I can't drive that fast hardly.
well, that's the reason our defense was so good. We were called the Purple People Eaters. We had our front four, Eller, Marshall, and Page, and Gary Larson. All three, Eller, Marshall, and Page, all could run really good. Now, Gary Larson was big and strong, and he was kind of laid back, but all the other three could run really good.
Yeah.
Now, we played strictly nothing but zone, but the three linebackers could run good, so we could cover underneath real good. So that today, I don't know if our defense could really play like we did because of our defensive backs couldn't run so good. Now, Paul Krause, who played a long time and was really a thief, man, he could steal that ball from those quarterbacks. Of course, I don't know if his record will ever be broke of interceptions or not. He really was an interceptor, man. I mean, he could just really intercept that ball. But we had a great defense now. And let me tell you what, the quarterback didn't have much time to throw the ball.
Right.
With Eller, Marshall, and Page, man, I tell you what, they got after that quarterback.
Yeah, I was young then, but I remember watching them. And in fact, I was a Vikings fan. I had my big Purple People Eaters poster up on the wall. But I remember watching those guys. And again, that's why I mentioned earlier, the fact that you led that team at defense and tackles for 4 years is astounding to me because you have some, Hall of Fame people there. Not that you shouldn't be in that Hall of Fame too, but you had those guys that were considered some of the greats of the game, but yet you're the one leading them in tackles. That should say something about you and your time there. So that blew me away when I saw that, I'll be honest with you.
Well, that's true about the Hall of Fame. There's a lot of guys out, that plays that's never probably not going to get into the Hall of Fame. It's a great honor to get into that Hall of Fame, but you have to have a lot of pull from a lot of different people to get into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. It's become more political than anything else.
Yeah.
I think everybody knows that now because you see people that get in that, in my mind, they don't really deserve it over other people, but they get in ahead of some people that should be in there. So something's going on behind the scenes.
Well, you have to have a lot of pull.
Yeah.
To get into the Hall of Fame, which is it's okay, but most of the people that get into the Hall of Fame deserves it.
Right. Yeah. I think they're all. I mean, I think in today's game, they're all so good. It's hard to tell those people that are elite, because your average players are pretty good. You know what I mean? All right, let's get us a quick break in here. When we get back, we're going to talk about some other things, your time with the Vikings, and some of the good stories that we've heard through the years. We're going to find out some of them are true or not. So I'm going to put you on the spot. Okay. All right. Stay with us. I'm Greg Christ. You're watching Courtside with Coach Christ. You can watch it on Facebook Live. You can watch it on YouTube. You can watch it on Roku. We have our own Roku channel. So make sure you spread the word to everybody and let them know that we're on the air with some of these legends. We're excited about that. Stay with us. We're going to come back after we pay some bills. Here with a few commercials. We'll be back after these messages. Welcome back to Courtside with Coach Chris. I'm Greg Chris, Dave Gorby, my co-host out there working the crowd right now. We appreciate you folks joining us tonight. We have a very special guest with us, Lonnie Warwick, Minnesota Viking all-time great, and we are thrilled to death to have him. Gorby right now is working his way through the crowd, getting some numbers. We're going to give away a few odds and ends here. We've got a few cards that Mr. Warwick has signed for us. We also got Minnesota Viking football that he signed as well. We want to remind you that we are at Calacino's tonight. Calacino's here in Beckley, and you get an opportunity to come by. It's at 3611 Robert C. Byrd Drive here in Beckley, and you come by and get you some good food, have you a nice cold drink. And I tell you what, when you're sitting around and you never know who might walk in, and I mean, it might be somebody like Owen Smith or somebody comes walking in the door, so you never know. So we're pretty excited to be here tonight and to see some of these faces, and to have Lonnie Warwick with us has just been absolutely fascinating. Anyway, we want to continue on with our questioning now, and I want to ask you this. I was reading somewhere today or yesterday where Joe Cap named you to one of the meanest all-time football players or something to that effect. And I'm just curious to know, and I've heard stories, but I'm not going to put you on the spot with any of those stories. I'm just curious to know why Joe Cap would select you as one of those meanest football players ever. He played quarterback on your team, and you were on defense, so how's he realize you're so mean? That's what I want to know.
Well, me and Joe Cap had a little disagreement one time in this saloon that we were in. You know, he said that the defense lost the game, and I said, Joe, you must be mistaken there that the offense didn't score any points, and so he said, well, let's go outside and talk about this thing. So when we get outside, you know, Joe had been into that tequila pretty good, so we got after it a little bit and ended up, you know, in a little argument. And Bud Grant, he didn't like it, so we had to face him the next day. So
you must have whipped him because he named you one of the meanest players of all time.
Well, he had a couple of black eyes and what have you, so he didn't bother me no more.
He probably took blame for all the losses after that, didn't he? And now that we're back allowed again, I want to mention the fact that we are at Calacino's, and a lot of good food here, a lot of good people, good atmosphere, a great place to come and have dinner and just enjoy yourself. Again, you never know who might walk in. You never know. You might see Owen Smith or somebody come walking in the door. You never know. You just never know. Anyway, we are at Calacino's, and we are with Lonnie Warwick. Of course, Lonnie played 8 years with the Minnesota Vikings, 2 years with the Falcons, I believe, if that's correct, and played in Super Bowl IV. And again, one of the things that fascinated me the most is he led the Purple People Eaters in tackles for 4 years, and I think that's pretty daggone awesome right there. I know a lot of people, you know, looking back at that era, are curious to know as far as running backs that you play. You know, you had a lot of interaction with running backs back then. People didn't throw the ball like they do today, so there's a lot of running going on. Who's the best running back that you probably come up against in your time? I mean, I have a pretty good idea, but who is the best?
Well, I guess the best running back that I ever played against was probably Gil Sayers. You know, he could stop on a dime and give you 9-cent back change. I'm telling you, this guy was, I mean, he was just amazing, this guy. I mean, he was fast. I mean, he was tough. And I remember one time he run an outside sweep, and I forced him to the sidelines. And I said, I'm going to get you now, you know. And I was ready. And I knew and I figured he was going to try to step out of bounds. Well, he turned it up on me and just run right over top of him. But let me tell you something. When you played those old Green Bay Packers, let me tell you something, buddy. Those guys, had Jimmy Taylor. Man, he was 6'2" or 3 and weighed 235 pounds. And let me tell you, at that time, he could bench 500 pounds. He was one of those guys. And hey, when you hit him, it was like hitting Owen Smith there, you know. Yeah. Of course, I never did get a chance to hit him, but I watched him, you know. And I'd always tell I'd always tell April.
Awful lot of room in here. Let's clear out this table just a little bit.
I'd always tell April that he run like Jimmy Taylor,
Yep, yeah.
we'd go up there and
Oh, yeah.
watch him play.
Yep,
But anyhow, that Jimmy Taylor man, let me tell you, you'd force him to the sidelines, and those guys would step out of bounds. But let me tell you something, he would not step out of bounds. I tell you. But it was great playing. I really enjoyed it. But probably the best running back that I played against, and of course I only got to play against him a couple times, was Jim Brown. Let me tell you, I watched the film on him, and I'd watch those film, and I'd say, man, how come these guys can't tackle him? How come they can't tackle him? And I watched him, and I said, man, I know I can tackle this guy. But I found out right quick. This guy was 6'3", 235 pounds, and he could run. I mean, he could run a 4.2, 4.3, 40. I mean, this guy was fast.
Yeah.
And, buddy, he was built and he was strong. They got a lot of guys playing today, but you played against guys like Gale Sayers, Jimmy Taylor, Jimmy Brown. And let me tell you, those guys were great.
I was going to ask you again. You keep stealing my questions, but I was going to ask you again about just some of the legends you played with and played against. You've already mentioned a couple of them from the Vikings, but go ahead and keep name dropping on us. Who's some more?
Well,
folks?
let me tell you something. Larry Zonka was a load. I'll tell you that right now. I'll never forget the first time I played against that guy. Man, he was a load.
Yeah.
But of course, ain't so many great players played back then. And the questions that people ask me, do I think any of those guys could play today? Oh, all those guys could play.
Oh, yeah.
How would you like to play against the Kramer, Fuzzy Thurston, those guys? Man, Forrest Gregg, those guys could play. They could block.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot of difference in blocking today than the way they blocked back then.
Right.
They
take those knees out back then. They
Oh
could
yeah.
block down low.
Let me tell you, those guys could. I mean, teams like that. All the great teams. Chicago Bears, man, they had great. That Gale Sayers, let me tell you what, he was unreal.
Yeah.
This guy could, catch a little screen pass out of the backfield. I was lucky to play the time that I played.
Right.
And most of those guys that played back then could play today.
Oh, yeah, I think so too.
Sure.
Yeah, that was the golden era, and those guys were tough nuts, man. Tough football
you
players.
ain't kidding.
We promised earlier, and I want to do this before I forget. We got some stuff up here to give away that Mr. Warwick's been kind enough to bring to us. We got a few ball cards that he's autographed, and also a football. So we'll give away a couple of these ball cards right now. And Greg gave you some tickets. Does anybody not have a ticket yet? Want everybody to have a chance to get something? Everybody good? All right. The first set of numbers is, and I got to get it back here where I can see it with my glasses. I feel like I'm in the disco with these lights flashing on me. Y'all don't even know what a disco is. You're too young. 871-8128. Anybody? All right, Greg, go ahead and pull us another one out. I'll go to the next ticket, but we're going to need one more. All right, this one is 871-8120. That's probably his buddy he just walked out the door with. I bet it was. Got it? All right. All right, there we go. Lonnie Warwick autographed football card.
Okay, buddy. Good deal.
All right, good deal. Let's go ahead and do one more.
Hey, believe it or not, I seen a couple of those cards. You know what they were selling for? $2.50. No, I'm just kidding.
It just cheapened our show a little bit. We thought we was acting like it's big time here. $2.50. All right, here's another one. This is a little different looking. This is a nice card here. I hadn't seen that one. I have to tell a story. I was telling Lonnie beforehand. My son was about 10 years old, and I was a basketball coach at Mount Hope High School. And Lonnie would always play in our golf tournament, our fundraising golf tournament. So this particular year, he decided to let my son drive the golf cart again, who was 10. And the only thing I heard the rest of the day was that my son ran over his foot in the golf cart. And I was lucky enough to get a picture with him and my son with his arm around my son. I got on eBay, got me a card. And again, I was coaching at Mount Hope, so he was at all ball games. I got him to sign my football card, and I put it in a frame, fixed it all up for my son. And that was his Christmas present that year. He called me yesterday. He's a basketball coach at the University of Pikeville now. And he called me yesterday and said, Dad, I see we're going to have Lonnie Warwick on the show tomorrow night. And I was like, yeah. He said, I still got that picture in that frame hanging on my wall down here. So I thought that was cool. He said that's one of the most awesome gifts he ever got. So I'll never forget that. Anyway, next set of numbers here. Make sure I ain't calling the same number. They all seem awful close. 8718119. All right, we got a winner. That's a nice card. There you go. Thank you, sir.
That's awesome.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate it.
No problem, man. Appreciate you. All right, let's get back here. Yep, you're the man. Yeah, you're the man. Yep, you got it. All right, couple more questions here for Lonnie before we take another break. You played in Super Bowl IV, obviously. Everybody knows that. Talk about your experience in the Super Bowl. I mean, I think that's what everybody wants. They want to hear those type of stories. What was it like for you playing in the Super Bowl? I know, again, you mentioned a fellow from Mount Hope playing in the Super Bowl. How cool was that?
Yeah, it was a great experience. Of course, I know it's different today, but let me tell you something. When we played, Bud Grant kept us under control. I mean, I really thought that he overdone it a little bit. He kept us locked up the whole time, and he should have let us get out a little more than what he did.
Right.
Because the time when we got to the Super Bowl, when we got game time, everybody was so uptight, it was just unreal. We were just uptight. And Kansas City just jumped right on us,
Right.
But before we knew it, Kansas City had us 21-0, and we just never could recover. And just, if anybody would have told me that Kansas City could have beat us, it was just, and we opened the season with them the next year and beat them 38-7 or something like that, But back then, the money is a lot different now than it was then. The winners of the Super Bowl then got $15,000, but that was a heck of a lot of money, and the losers got $7,500. And we played in New Orleans. Well, right at the end of the game, they give us the check. Well, I never left New Orleans with $7,500. I guarantee you. Me and Roy Winston and Wally Hildenberg, we stayed a couple of extra days, and neither one of us had any money at all when we left out of New Orleans.
Probably had some beads.
We had all kinds of beads.
No money,
but a lot of beads. Roy Winston, he was the other linebacker, and he was my roommate. So we said, well, can we get this check cashed? He said he knew everybody in New Orleans. So he said, I know a couple of people down there on the strip down there. And so we had our checks cashed. Oh, man, I tell you.
That's something you don't hear.
I know it.
That's odd, that you get your check right after the game. That's
right.
strange.
Yeah, well, they had the checks made out, right after the game.
Wow.
So it was unreal.
Yeah, so the winning team made more than what your first contract was.
Oh, yeah.
Just for one game.
Right.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah. You look back at back then, the money and what have you, you had to have an all-season job.
Right.
The job that I have in the all-season was really a good job. Ham's Brewery. That's who I worked for.
Good job.
And I'll never forget interviewing the guy. I love telling this story this guy's name was Johnny Geisler, and so I go in an interview and Johnny Geisler, he's sitting there and he talks to me, and I'm feeling that he's wanting to know how much I made with the Vikings, and I didn't want to tell him I only made $9,000 with the Vikings, So he said, you have to tell me how much you make with the Vikings so I'll know what to give you. And I said, well, Johnny, if I tell you what the Vikings pay me and they found out that, they'd cut me from the team. I can't do that. And I said, I'll see you then. And I started to get up. He said, no. He said, how about $18,500? Man, that's like throwing a rabbit in a briar patch. Man, I'm telling you. Oh, I said,
When do I start?
I said, let me think about it tonight, Johnny, and I'll be back tomorrow. Well, I was sitting at his desk the next morning at 7:00. Oh man!
It'd have been shocked for you to come in and say, I retired from the Vikings.
Yeah, and the thing about it was an unlimited expense account.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh man, that was really a rabbit in the briar patch there.
That's funny. And I'm not going to ask you what it was, but by the time you were done, had that amount gone up significantly, or had it just risen a little bit? Because
For the Vikings, you mean?
yeah,
Yeah.
oh, and the brewery.
Yeah, well, yeah, and the Vikings, yeah. When I ended up with the Vikings, I ended up
a lot better.
Yeah.
Because I know it was early 70s. You know, you retired, I guess.
But when I transferred to Atlanta, they really took good care of me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Of course, Norm Van Brocklen was the coach at Minnesota when I first started,
Right.
and he was the coach at Atlanta then, and he really wanted me to come to Atlanta real bad.
Right.
Because we had a really, really good team when I went to Atlanta. The only thing was, when I got to Atlanta, we had good players. Atlanta had they had as good a front four as we did, Mm-hmm. They had Claude Humphrey, John Zook, man, really good
Right,
players.
right.
Tommy Novus,
Right.
But Van Brocklen had gotten into the booze so bad that he just couldn't handle everything.
Yeah.
And boy, I spent many a night trying to talk to him about it, and because being around Bud Grant and seeing how Bud Grant had coached,
Right.
but I just couldn't get him under control, and we had a great team down there, and we were that close. We were that close to playoffs,
Right.
And just little things that we could have done that Van Brocklen kind of messed it up.
Right. Wow. Interesting stuff. Before we go to another break, I asked you earlier if this was a Super Bowl ring. You want to know how things have changed? Hold that up there so everybody can see your Super Bowl. There's the Super Bowl ring from Super Bowl IV.
Super Bowl IV. Yeah, it's. I want everybody to know that's the losing Super Bowl ring. Okay.
Winning one's a little bit bigger, huh?
Yeah, the winner's a lot bigger. But it's still, if I get out and late at night sometimes and run out of money, I can always hawk this one.
You lost that thing a few years
Yeah,
back
I
in the
did.
flood, didn't
Uh-huh.
you? And
That's when I lived down on the river.
Yeah, I
I finally
remember that.
moved off that river
I don't blame you. I remember when you lost it, but
because it's hard to beat that water.
oh yeah, I guarantee you. All right, let's get us one more break in here. We still got a couple more questions we want to ask you before we close this thing off tonight. We still got a couple of things up here to give away as well. So we'll take us a break. When we come back, we'll finish up. You're watching Courtside with Coach Christ. I'm Greg Christ. Dave Gorby, my co-host, sitting over there somewhere. He's taking care of some business for us, and we are at Calasino's in Beckley up here on Robert C. Byrd Drive. Great place, great atmosphere, great food. Come on by and get you some. Stay with us. We'll be back after these messages. welcome back to Courtside with Coach Christ. I'm Greg Christ, and we are here tonight with the legendary Lonnie Warwick, former NFL player for the Minnesota Vikings. And this has been fascinating, and we keep getting more requests for more stories. And we have a Bud Grant story here we want to get in real quick concerning your pregame ritual. So won't you tell us about that?
Well, you had to know Bud Grant. I mean, Bud Grant was, this guy, he would tell you all kinds of stuff before this game. And he went through all the stuff about how you had to play, especially in the cold weather, and he'd tell you about all these Eskimos up on the dew line and stuff like that. When it was 40 below zero outside, he'd see guys that wanted to have gloves on and thermo underwear. And he said, you can't be wrapped up like that. Man, Jim Marshall and Carl Eller and Alan Page, those guys would say, man, I can't play without these thermo underwears. It was amazing how Bud Grant used to tell us, before we go out. Sometimes, when you go out and play a football game at 14 below zero, the whole time I played the Met Stadium up there, it was all outside.
Right.
You play a game outside at 14 below zero now,
you know it.
You ain't a kidding.
That's good home field advantage.
That's right. They kept a tarp over the field, and you'd go out to warm up. They take the tarp off, and you go back in. When you come back out, it wasn't nothing but a solid sheet of ice. So,
So we hear that he had some specifications about lining up for the national anthem.
Oh yeah, it was special. When you go out, you stood on the sidelines. You stood on the sidelines. You had your helmet off under your right arm, and you stood at attention. He said, "We don't want you scratching your butt. We don't want you doing nothing. You stand at attention and the flag. And if you don't," he said, "if anybody can't do that right now, you tell me, and we'll make room for you on the bus to go somewhere else."
Yeah.
And he meant it too,
Yep, that was the day, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Things a little different now, aren't they?
Yeah, they sure is.
All right, let me give away. I want to get all this stuff given away before we get off the air. But next number is 8718115. All right,
We got a winner.
we got a winner. There you go, sir. Thank you.
Okay, but good. Yeah.
All right, this next one is for the ball.
The old purple people eat the ball of a Minnesota Viking.
All right, here we go. The winner is Tex Williams. No, just kidding. You didn't sit down. You didn't win. Sit down. You didn't win. All right, 8718134.
Oh, hell yeah!
Oh man, hey, just think, Joe Cap threw that ball.
God damn it, thank
Yeah.
you. Man, this is an honor. Appreciate that. Fucking A. Hell yeah, brother.
Joe Cap threw that ball. I knew you was going to catch it.
Who would have thought, right? That's just
That's
the way
right.
that had to work out, right?
That's right. A good job.
Just the way it had to work out. Yo. Yeah, I've already said Owen Smith walked in, so he walked in. Somehow Greg, I don't know how this worked, but I bet we'll probably be having him for an interview before long because you done made a deal with him. He's going to win the football, but he's got to do an interview. There you go. No, we didn't make no deals. It's all on the up and up, okay? All right, one last thing here. We're getting short on time, and I like to do this, and I hope you'll play along with us every week when we have our guests on. And I missed Tex on this, but I'm going to go back and get him on this. But we do this little segment we call Shoot the Three. And what we do is we ask three hard questions. And you got 30 seconds to answer them. If you don't answer these questions within 30 seconds, then you suffer some awful consequences, which we'll tell you about later on. Anyway, we're going to ask those three questions. You got 30 seconds to answer. You ready?
Okay.
I ain't going to whoop you. Just relax. I ain't going to whip you. Okay? All right, the first question. What is the best and worst purchases you ever made? And we may have somebody else come up and talk about that, but best and worst purchases you ever made.
The best purchase I ever made was a 1940 Oldsmobile an Oldsmobile that I still have.
Awesome.
Okay,
Awesome.
and what else was the other?
The other part is, what's the worst purchase you ever made? I'm gonna guess it was something in New Orleans, but you don't have to disclose it if you don't want to.
The worst purchase I ever made was probably my cabin that I had in at Montcove Lake in Monroe County.
We got a Monroe County guy here. Okay.
Because it was robbed every week.
I was getting ready to say, you want to tell us why? There you go.
Because everybody in Union thought I had a bunch of footballs up there autographed.
All right, I was going to ask you if you're going to tell us why. All right, if you could be a fly on the wall, who would you listen in on?
Well, I tell you what, I played in a golf tournament, and Frank Sinatra, who I would like to listen in on.
Okay.
Because let me tell you what, with him, just being around him and Dean Martin for just a little while, I would have liked to been a fly on the wall just to listen to some of the things Frank Sinatra.
Could have been good. All right, last one. You got 10 seconds, okay? If you had to lose a body part, what body part would you choose to lose?
My right knee.
I knew it was going to be a knee.
Because let me tell you what, I've had that thing replaced about 3 or 4 times.
Wow. You just need oiled up a little
Yeah.
bit. That's all you need. You don't want to get rid of it. That's awesome. Thanks for playing along with us there. We really don't have any consequences for you to suffer, so it wasn't a time limit. We just
Okay.
want to play. Now we're going to wrap it up here. But if you have anything else, I know you were talking when we started, and I kind of interrupted you and stopped. But if you have anything else you want to share about, coming up in Mount Hope and going on to the NFL and your life and your history and everything, go ahead and give that to the audience right now.
Well, I tell you what, growing up in Mount Hope and growing up in the state of West Virginia, let me tell you what, I traveled to California, Texas, Minnesota, and what have you. But let me tell you, I have never been to a state that I liked as much as I do West Virginia. Let me tell you something. West Virginia, I've traveled all over, and I met people from different parts of the country and what have you. And the state of West Virginia is so fantastic that it's unreal. And let me tell you something. I was born and raised here, and let me tell you what. I'm going to stay here the rest of my life, and I love the state of West Virginia and all the people here.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Good job. Very nice. Well, and I know personally, and in this area, and I'm sure around a lot of parts of the country, people feel the same way about you. You're a wonderful person, and you're so kind to come and join us tonight. We really do appreciate this, taking the time out of your time to come and be with us. We appreciate that so much.
Well, thank you very much. And anytime I can do anything for anybody in the state of West Virginia, I'm going to do it, because growing up and being in West Virginia, the people that's helped me, I tell you what, I really thank them, and it's been a pleasure for me.
Awesome. All right, one more time. Let's hear it for Lonnie Warwick, NFL, Minnesota Vikings, Super Bowl IV. Appreciate you so much. That's going to do it for our show tonight. Again, we are at Calacino's here in Robert C. Byrd Drive in Beckley. We appreciate you joining us. We hope you enjoyed this as much as we did, because this was truly an entertaining night. We appreciate everybody for coming out tonight and joining us, and also everybody for watching. Again, make sure you spread the word that they can watch on Facebook. They can watch on YouTube. They can watch on Roku. We have our own Roku channel. It's Courtside with Coach Chris. I'm Greg Chris for Dave Gorby. We appreciate you again joining us tonight. We look forward to seeing you again next week. I don't know if we can top this, but we'll keep working at it. Thank you, everybody, and good night.